Hello, this is Matt. Just wanted to let y'all know before the episode gets started that this is going to be an audio only episode. That the video was on an SD card. The SD card got lost. So this episode will be without video. Hopefully that won't matter too much. And this episode will just be with Kai and his friend Maggie. I was not there for it. Thank you.
It's recording.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
What's up, Maggie?
Nothing much. How are you doing today?
I'm good. So, today we've got a special guest, Miss Maggie. You want me to say your last name?
No, it's
Just
fine.
stay anonymous.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay anonymous for today.
Okay. Maggie with no E. And I'm Kai. They already know that.
They do.
All 12 of them. And the audience gets smaller every week, and that's what we want here. The loyal ones stick around.
But we have a really good episode planned.
I think so.
So I think we may gain some followers.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
We can share it. We have someone that's in marketing here, so this could go really well. We could go viral.
Yeah, I think it will. I have high hopes.
Good. Well, we don't have Matt today. I guess I could say that his family has the smovid.
Yeah.
So, he's just being cautious, which is understandable. Although, no, I won't say that. This is going to be mean, but...
No, he's practicing caution, which is great.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I don't want you to get COVID.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to get COVID.
And we're vaxxed up, but...
Yeah, we're vaxxed and waxed, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we'll see where this goes. So the main thing, I'm going to take a gulp of this.
Okay, do it. I approve.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about murderers today. I know it's a pastime of yours.
Mm-hmm. It is.
That's how you go to sleep at night. You listen to murder podcasts.
Yep.
I've got one that I looked into, but I know you've got a few that you want to
I do.
delve into. So
yeah, and I also kind of want to talk about the psychology of murder.
Yeah.
And have some fun statistics on serial killers that will haunt you.
Okay, good.
I know that they haunted me. But I think for me and my interest in murder, I think really what it stems from is just an interest in humans and trying to understand why or how someone could do these horrible things. And yes, I feel like a creep because all I listen to is about horrible things happening to people.
No, but the psychology is so intriguing. Well, I think you like psychology in general, and I do too.
Yep.
But especially psychology that drives people to do just wild shit, like murder.
Yeah. And I think one thing that we're going to be focusing on today is family annihilators.
Yeah.
Which is a particular form of murder and is actually quite awful. But they have done a lot of studies on them. And they have essentially come up with classifications of family annihilators, which is very interesting. So we can dive into that as well.
It's just such a wild term.
I know.
When you said it to me the other day, I had an intuition of what the fuck it meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, that there's classifications of family annihilators. I'm gonna tell you about one, and you'll have to tell me. I think this guy could be classified as a family annihilator, but he had a lot of other like extracurricular activities surrounding his family annihilation.
Extracurricular killings, you mean?
Yeah. He had. God, this guy was way ahead of his time, actually. Which it sounds terrible, but he was a trendsetter in like mass killings.
Yeah. At a time when that was not a thing.
Yeah, with high-powered rifles. But
so do we want to, before we dive into yours, should I tell you the different classifications of family annihilators?
Let's set up the terminology.
Okay.
Yeah, do that.
This is based on a study that was done I believe in England, but I pulled this article from Science Daily. It was published in 2013.
Nice.
Just want to make sure I'm citing correctly.
Okay. It's within 10 years. I'll accept it.
Yeah. So essentially, the researchers used newspaper archives to analyze 3 decades of family annihilation from 1980 to 2012.
Gotcha.
And they came up with some pretty interesting statistics. So obviously, the unifying factor is that all family annihilators, well, not all, but the majority of them were males.
Right. I'm sure most of these people you're going to discuss are...
They're only males.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that women family annihilators don't interest me.
Sure.
But to me, I feel like as I was doing this research, the female family annihilators mostly killed their family because of some sort of psychosis. Mm-hmm. Whereas males, I've noticed they fell into some of these other categories, which is just more interesting to me.
Okay. Yeah, I think when I think of females killing their families, my first thought is crazy religious shit, like women drowning their children.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that falls into the same category.
No, they definitely are. They just fall into like the psychotic family annihilator.
Okay.
Okay, so over half these men, which is 55%, were in their 30s. So that's a prime time for killing your family, apparently.
Wow.
The oldest family annihilator, they said it was 59, which is interesting. And August, actually, this month, in fact, is the most common month for a killing to take place.
I wonder, there's probably a bunch of factors there.
Funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It is.
It's the end of the summer, beginning of the school year.
Well, men have access to their families. There are less obligations like school where people might miss them.
Okay.
And also crime in general goes up during
In
the
the
summer.
summer, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it peaks in August.
And only 81% of these men attempted suicide after the act. Which
Only 80?
only 81%.
That seems like a lot.
To me, it feels like, I don't know. To me, it seems like it should almost be more.
Statistically, that's
It is.
insane.
It is.
Yeah. 4 out of 5 of these dudes kill themselves
But
after they murder their families.
when we talk about these categories, which I'm about to get into, I don't know. I just feel like maybe the more interesting cases that I'm going to cover, they don't kill themselves and they end up living these other lives. But I don't know. I don't know why that statistic just sticks out to me. Like, why not 100%? Like, if you're going to kill your entire family.
Yeah, I just think it's just statistics. I don't know. It's just not everyone can murder themselves after. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's how statistics work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be 100.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, dive
So you
into
ready?
some of these. Yeah.
Okay, so there are 4, and I want you to classify yours after you hear these.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is self-righteous.
Mm-hmm.
So this killer seeks to locate blame for his crimes, usually upon the mother, who he holds responsible for the breakdown of the family.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of these cases, this may involve the killer actually phoning his partner before the murder to explain what he's about to do.
Okay.
And for these men, their breadwinner status is central to the idea of an ideal family.
Okay. They're the guy.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
the man. They make all the money,
Okay.
and they're not to blame. The wife is.
Okay. Gotcha.
Woman, yeah.
Obviously.
Okay, so that's first. Obviously, they're always to blame. The second one is disappointed. You'll like this one. So this killer believes that his family has let him down or has acted in ways to undermine or destroy his vision of the ideal family life. An example may be disappointment that children are not following the traditional religious or cultural customs of the father.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Well, I wonder I'm sure there are overlapping categories too.
I'm sure.
Because I could see the dad being sad that the kids aren't following in his footsteps, and then he also blames the mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for taking them away from
Sure.
our Lord Savior Jesus
Yeah.
Christ or something.
Keep going.
So the third one is anomic, and actually the 2 cases that I'm going to talk about fall into this category. And in these cases, the family has become firmly linked in the mind of the killer to economy. The father sees family as a result of his economic successes, allowing him to display his achievements. However, if the father becomes an economic failure, he sees the family as no longer serving this function.
Okay.
So, like, someone loses a lot of money or, like, loses his job and then just
Blames the family, or it doesn't. He doesn't blame them. They're not
needed anymore.
necessary. Okay.
That, and to me, it kind of seems like, in the cases that we'll talk about, almost like he wanted to spare them the shame of, like, being bankrupt or not having economic status.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, last one.
It's wild.
Paranoid. And this is someone who perceives an external threat to the family. This is often social services or the legal system, which the father feels will side against him and take the children away. Here, the murder is motivated by a twisted desire to protect the family.
Okay. Well, my guy is none of, like, I know now that I don't think my guy is a traditional family annihilator. He doesn't fall into any of those categories.
But let's talk about why, because
Okay.
I think you know.
Yeah. There's some, like, hidden shit that
So you want to go into it?
it lurks under the surface. Yeah. So I guess I could do mine first. I've talked about this guy before, but I'm fucking fascinated with him for a few reasons. This is Charles Whitman. And this, I thought it was interesting. I guess you kind of had heard of this guy, but I brought him up to you because, yeah, you graduated from UT.
University of Texas.
Wait, what do they do? Oh, yeah.
Hook 'em horns.
They don't do
No,
this?
they're not surfers.
Hang tight?
No, it's
Yeah.
this.
Hook 'em horns. But, yeah, so this guy, essentially his action was, he climbed the clock tower in the middle of campus at UT Austin. Is that where the actual campus is?
Yeah.
Is that the main campus?
Yeah, that is literally the main, I forget what we call it. It's essentially where, like, the liberal arts building is, but there's a huge, almost like a lawn where everyone hangs out, and, like, you have to pass by the clock tower to get to all your classes.
But this guy essentially brought several rifles up, high-powered rifles, which this is in 1966 that this occurred, and a bunch of ammunition, and even, like, machetes and knives, and, like, he was armed to the teeth. He even brought, like, Spam and food and water.
Do you think there's going to be, like, some sort of, like, hostage situation?
No, he was prepared to live there for days and keep killing people.
Holy shit.
But fortunately, I mean, they got him on the first day. But this guy's so interesting for a few reasons. So I learned more about his childhood. I didn't realize this. So his dad was like an avid hunter and, like, you know, there's pictures of this guy with a weapon in his hand when he's wearing a diaper. So, you know, like, really hardcore gun culture.
Well, it is Texas.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But the guy, even the dad in interviews afterwards, he still didn't make that connection in his mind. He was, like, proud. He's like, yeah, my boys know how to use weapons, you know. Like, they're trained to know how to use guns.
Do you think that it would have been too painful for him to admit that he had a part in this horrific crime?
Yeah, but the dad was also a shithead.
Okay. Go on.
That's something else that I learned. Like, the dad, I believe, I think he abused at least the children, maybe the whole fucking family. Like, beat his wife, beat his kids. So they, you know, Charles really resented his dad for that reason. And yeah, I guess just really held on to that into his adulthood.
Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting too, I think he was 18, he joined the Marines, and he was a sharpshooter.
Now, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, he was actually, I don't know if it's the same category in the Marines, but for us, a sharpshooter is a category under expert.
Okay.
So still, he's a really good shot. Also, Marines qualify, whereas the Army qualifies from 300 meters with a high-powered rifle. And they didn't use at the time, I don't know if they used M16s. This was like kind of Vietnam era, but I think it was more probably an M1 Garand or something like that, just an older style rifle, semi-automatic. But even more difficult to shoot at 500 meters than modern guns. But yeah, the Marines qualified from 500 meters, which is incredibly far. And actually, one of his kills was from 500 meters from the
shit.
clock tower.
Do you think in meters? Like, do you think in
I just
metric?
I equate it to yards, and then it's just easy.
Yeah, so you just must be like very directionally, and I guess you have good depth perception.
I don't. It's okay. I have an astigmatism, so it's,
Oh, yeah, you have football-shaped eyes.
yeah, it's okay. It could probably be better. But I'll need glasses probably within the next decade. At least reading glasses. Yeah.
You get like really tiny ones.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Really good ones. But I have the yellow lenses now, but I heard they're horse shit.
Yellow lenses.
Yeah, like to block out blue light. I think.
No, I've heard they're amazing.
Yeah, okay, I'm getting way off, but there's a little bit of
No, it's fine. We can
literature
get off.
on that,
Okay.
but not enough to justify me having them. But yeah, I'll show them to you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put those glasses on.
But anyway, so this guy, not only was he, well trained as a kid how to use weapons, but the Marines, he got even better. And it's funny. This is a side note, but it very much relates. There's a movie I want you to watch called Full Metal Jacket. I told you a little bit about it.
Yes. And I almost feel like a bad American that I haven't seen it.
No, it's its own special thing, but the reason I like it is because it is the closest thing to what boot camp is supposed to be, and what it kind of still is. It's not as intense, nearly as intense as it is. I felt fortunate. I felt like my drill sergeants were still pretty hardcore, and they gave a shit.
Yeah.
Which just meant they treated us like shit.
Yeah.
But it made us better, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. But
That's what you have to tell yourself.
yeah, I guess so. But I did feel like they cared. They took
Yeah.
their job really fucking serious. But in this this movie, Full Metal Jacket, the first 45 minutes is like basic training, basic Marine Corps training in the 60s, which is like prior to the Vietnam War. They were literally training Marines to go to the Vietnam War. And in the midst of this, probably like minute 35 or 40, he has all the cadets. Well, I don't know if they're cadets. They're soon to be Marines. They're sitting on these bleachers, and he starts to tell them. So this has to be after 66. But he's like, who here knows who Charles Whitman is?
Oh, shit.
And this is I'll tell you the irony here, the funny part to me. And someone knew, and they're like, well, what, and then he went into it. Yeah, Charles Whitman is a former Marine who climbed a clock tower, and he murdered 15 people, and some of them at over targets of 500 meters. And and then he said, and guess where Whitman was trained? And they're like, by the Marines. He's like, you're damn right, by the Marines.
That's awful.
Yeah. So he was using him as like,
Oh
if
my
you want to
God.
know how to shoot, like that's a prime example of this guy that killed 15 Americans from a clock tower.
No way that could get made now.
I know.
No way that line would be included in it.
Because this movie came out, I think in the 80s.
see.
Yeah.
Who was in it?
I forgot the guy's name, but he was a former Marine drill sergeant. That's the cool part.
Wait, the actor?
Yes. And he was
1987. Good.
actually brought in to train an actor who also ended up being in the movie, but he was supposed to train this actor to, act like a drill sergeant or a drill instructor. That's what the Marines call him. But the director liked this guy better. He's dead now. He died within the past probably 5 years.
And the director is Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
like a fucking famous director.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
The director.
But I love that. I realized that when I watched it through. I'm like, holy shit, that's the same Charles
Yeah.
Whitman. And he's referencing him to be like, you want to know how to shoot? Look at this guy that murdered a bunch of innocent Americans. Yeah.
It's crazy because I had never really heard of the event until I went to UT. And I kind of shared this with you last night.
Yeah.
But when I was on campus, there was an active shooter. and I think it
Yes.
was my freshman year.
Fucking wild.
And I think a lot of people were really, it just brought that memory up for people.
Sure.
Like a SWAT team had to escort me out of my chemistry class.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I mean, it was crazy because, I mean, you just never think that something like that's going to happen to you, you know, or that you would even be close to something like that.
I tell you that this isn't a great thought, but I think it's just statistically accurate. I feel safer where I am than like if I was in a major city and at a mall. Like I feel more in danger there
Then,
than I would just in a small town.
oh, well, yeah.
Because we're not same thing for quite frankly like nuclear arms.
Yeah, true. No one's going to want to blow up.
Mississippi.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. What are we?
But,
The
yeah.
statistics would improve.
Yeah.
I know that's awful, but
No.
yeah. If they wipe this
Yeah,
away. But
yeah.
there's a lot of sweet people here. A lot of great
Yeah.
people.
No, we don't want that to happen.
I know. I'm
We're just
kidding.
saying.
I
Yeah.
know, it's hypothetical. But no, this guy, Charles Whitman, climbed the clock tower, like literally prepared to like go to war for 3 days.
Wait, how long was he out of the Marines or was he still active? Like,
So-
how did he get involved at UT?
Yeah, so he was a Marine first.
Okay.
He served his time. He got out. He went to school at UT, started school at UT.
Do you know what his degree was in? Maybe something like creepy, like
No.
engineering
It
or something. I don't know. And I feel like if it was going to happen, it was going to be an engineer.
I don't think it
Let's see.
was. I'm sure we could find out. I can't remember. But I think he failed out the first time
Got it. Okay.
and went back to the Marines, deployed, and came back.
Where was he deployed?
I forgot where he was deployed. This is around Vietnam era. He could have gone to Nam, I don't know, or maybe just somewhere in the vicinity.
Guess what degree he was in?
Really?
Mechanical fucking engineering.
Wow. He's a
I knew
psychopath.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. If you've met a mechanical engineer,
Oh, wow. But so this guy, obviously, multiple traumas. Like you can already do the math on his shitty father, on his time in the Marines, his overseas experiences, and apparently he got in trouble even during like Marine basic training for being just hype. Like
Yeah.
got caught with a pistol when he wasn't supposed to have one, just like fucking amped.
like probably in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and just, well, when you're like too overzealous and high energy for the Marines, something's up.
Yeah.
Because this guy was like just itching.
That's
you
awful.
know,
I mean,
know.
it's crazy.
There are people, I know some, that literally join to shoot people in other countries. Like that's their goal.
But how is that not filtered out in the psych assessments? Because wouldn't that be an issue?
Not for...
I mean, it should.
It's funny you say that because really for the goal of the military for combat arms, which that is a combat arm branch, anything in infantry, Marines, you want people like that, but you want people like that can also turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them can't, quite frankly, and that's a problem. Like I remember a guy, I think it was a Marine, getting dishonorably discharged because I think there was video footage of like they had just killed these guys
I listened to a podcast about this.
and then they pissed on their bodies.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Different podcasts. I'm sure that there are 1,001 stories about this.
Yeah. But this guy was interviewed afterwards, and he's like, yeah, you want killers? Like, we fucking hate these people.
Yeah.
Like, who are they to me? You know,
Yeah.
I just murdered them, and but that...
And they're trained to kill, and they're
Yeah.
trained to have that part of their brain activated.
Yeah, it like makes me like that's like I could feel the guy's emotion like through the in the interview. Like he was so sincere. He's like, you want me to like shake these like
Yeah.
be nice and give them a proper burial? That's why I killed him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. It was just so there is that mentality. This guy was probably not too far from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he had other issues. So he had all that trauma. Also just the stress of school and not doing well. Mm-hmm. He carried on the pattern of abuse to his wife. So he ended up getting married somewhere in the midst of that.
Yep.
I think as he kind of joined the Marines, he got married and, would beat his wife.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, 1962, he got married. They're
Right.
20.
Oh, yeah.
They're babies.
They were young, yeah. But he had some weird shit going on. So he had violent impulses, like angry impulses. He started having more and more frequent headaches. Just, it could be coincidental, but, just, it's very interesting. My favorite part about his story is how articulate and well written and well thought out all his notes were, his suicide notes. He wrote one prior to murdering his wife and kids.
So lay out the timeline.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. Well, this is like leading up to the event, right? So
what day did it happen?
I'm not sure.
Let's see.
So this would have been the night prior to the event in 1966. What do you see? I don't know.
I think it started maybe in
Is
late
it
July
August?
and August. Yeah, no, I'm not even kidding.
It's a popular
I'm
time.
telling you, there's
So-
something to be said for on August 1st.
This
Yeah.
is crazy too, because in the days prior, he was literally typing the note on a fucking typewriter back in the day, and one of his friends walked in. Had no idea. He's like, I'm writing a paper for school, or just made up some bullshit and stopped. And didn't, this person didn't know what was going on, and said he was in good spirits, and he was,
Well, he probably, think about, I feel like someone who is troubled in that sense, there must be some sort of relief once they have a plan in place.
Yeah, I guess so. But this guy was acting actually better than he had, because he had driven himself with all these classes and shit he was taking, trying to become a mechanical engineer. He was just super stressed, and he still had all this rage and anger and fucking physical symptoms, headaches. And, and he also, I'm backtracking even more, I keep recalling things that I saw in this awesome documentary.
What's the name of the documentary, by the way?
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but it came out in like late 80s, early 90s, so
Okay.
it's maybe like 9D. It's like a 23-minute long deal. It was pretty good. But this guy literally told his therapist, so he was seeing a therapist in the 60s.
That's very progressive of him, and
Yeah.
also very interesting given his background.
Yeah, I need to get with it, because,
Yeah,
this
dude.
is 2021.
Everyone has a therapist
I
like
know,
these days.
they really do. But he literally told his therapist the exact, impulses that he had. Like, hey, I'm actually thinking about, this is called plan and intent in my world. This is like a red fucking flag.
Yeah.
Like when I ask people, in medical assessments, we have behavioral health questions. Typically, it's something along the lines of, in the past month, have you had thoughts of hurting, killing yourself or others? And most people say no. But if they say, I go, all right, let me clarify. Do you have a plan or intent to kill yourself or anyone else? And I haven't, except for the ones that I saw in the ER that were literally there for suicidal ideation. Most people are like, well, no, it's just I get angry and I'm like, I picture myself doing something, but I've never really planned it, and I'm not actually going to kill anyone, or I'm not actually going to kill myself.
But do you think they would be honest with you?
Yeah.
You do.
When you're that, you have to be incredibly specific. Most of the time, people will just they'll just kind of tell you they don't really have anything to, when they're in that moment, when they're actually going to do it, they're just like, I've thought about this or this. It's pretty
Interesting.
specific, but you have to pin them down.
Well, it's interesting that the therapist didn't, and maybe there weren't laws back then like there are
Yeah.
now, but therapists are, I think, by law required to report something if they believe that you're going to harm yourself or others.
Yeah, it was very much a different world. But no, the guy literally, he's everything. He told the guy his whole fucking plan. It's just wild to me. But anyway.
If it was a female therapist, she would have reported it.
But probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was, he fucked up.
He fucked up.
Yeah, so, Anyway, fast forward. So yeah, he's writing the notes. He wrote one prior to the night before the event, late July, early August, where he, very much in detail put how much he loved his family and his mother. Well, take the mother out. He loved his family and didn't know why he felt compelled to do the things that he did, and urged investigators to do an autopsy.
Oh my
He's
God.
like, to see, what is wrong with me
Yeah.
that I feel this way, and that it's getting worse. So he wrote this note. His friend, again, came over as he's finishing it up, ding, and just set it down on the mantle or whatever. And yeah, so that night he had all his shit prepped. He killed his family to spare them the shame.
I think
What does that fall into then?
so. I think it's kind of funky because this
It's
is
not
a funky
economic.
case.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, let me see.
So that was, he killed his wife and kids before all these events.
I almost feel like, I don't know. I mean, but he's really not a true family annihilator.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think it's not economic, but it could be. He's going to be seen as a failure. So I think if it was going to fall into anything, it'd be anomic.
Okay. Well, he did want to, that was his point. He's like, I don't want them to, I know the shame that it will face him. So literally,
Or paranoid. That's actually probably more what it is.
he killed them all in their sleep. They might have woken up, but he stabbed his wife 3 times in the chest.
Did he stab his children?
I don't know if I think he killed them also with a knife.
See, that's interesting to me. Why would he kill them with a knife,
Yeah.
but kill other people with a gun? A gun is much cleaner and also less personal.
Also, a knife is quieter. I mean, he had big plans the next morning.
I guess that could be it.
Yeah.
But why 3 times? Why not just, he knows how to kill someone quickly.
It was just, I think the first blow was the fatal blow, but he just wanted to make sure, like he didn't want her to sit there and suffer. He actually cared a lot about his wife that he murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. In cold
Twisted.
blood. I know. The logic there falls apart.
Well, there's a reason why his logic is not
I know.
sound.
Yeah. So he did that. Then he went over to his mother's. I don't know if it was the next morning or maybe that night. I think it was in the evening.
And the mother actually lives on like the main drag
Yeah.
of UT, which is Guadalupe Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He really felt bad about that. He actually sat down after murdering her. I think he shot and stabbed her.
Okay.
I don't know which one first.
Interesting.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
One after the other. Sat down and wrote a letter about his mother, and how much he loved her. I just, the notes, I wish I could, I'm sure we could find the notes.
I have them, but I don't know if we want to read them.
Nah,
We'll save that.
It's too
Y'all can
much.
look into it.
Sure, yeah. You Google it, man.
Yeah.
Come on, Doug.
Yeah. Don't ask us to do crazy
Yeah.
stuff. We're not going to read these letters.
I actually, I should have read them before. But anyway, they seemed so intimate and like he was honestly, just confused about what was going on in his own mind. So murdered his mother and then, had all his bags packed to camp out in the top of this clock tower. So on his way up, he went to the 26th floor. The 27th floor is the observatory. Mm-hmm. Went to the 26th floor, immediately shot like the female clerk in the head, killed her. And there were a couple other employees up there. Mm-hmm. And he killed, one of them was just there visiting with their son. Mm-mm. And he killed the 15-year-old. But the dad got away and was basically like stuck, kind of like a hostage in a certain part of the clock tower. But he couldn't access he couldn't access Charles. So Charles did damage on the way up. And then he barricaded, he lugged all that heavy shit up, that floor, which he had a bunch of stuff with him. And once he got to the top, he barricaded it with furniture and literally just started, let me backtrack. So right before he starts shooting people. Before he went up to the clock tower, his same buddy that saw him type the note saw him on campus.
You've got to be fucking kidding me.
I don't know if he had his stuff with him, at that point. Maybe he had it staged somewhere. But he said he just looked different, disheveled. And he says he realizes in hindsight he was probably in shock. He had just murdered his family,
and his
mother.
mom.
Yeah.
And he just shot all these people. Oh, no, this is before he shot people.
Before. But his friend was like, holy shit. He's like, now, this friend was actually super insightful. I was like, in 1966, this guy was really like clear-minded, clear-spoken. Like, he's like, yeah, he was probably in shock because of what he had just done. Which I found that like that guy was, I don't know, intelligent
Also just
guy.
the amount of, not guilt, because I don't think he should feel guilt, but that must have haunted him.
Oh, yeah. Well, that and like, whoops, getting some text.
Yeah, you're a very popular man.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It's Army text. But so anyway, yeah, fast forward to the clock tower, and literally he just set up on one side of the clock tower where he had this awesome vantage point, not only to the campus, but this section of shops not far.
I literally know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he had a great vantage
That's
there.
on Guadalupe Street.
Yeah, and he was picking off window shoppers
Yeah.
from a few hundred yards away. And, yeah, just anyone moseying about campus, you know, it just started just murdering them. There was this one girl, I found this pretty interesting. She got, like, basically pinned behind, there's this flagpole that has this huge concrete barrier at the bottom. And she was pinned behind that and obviously couldn't move or she was dead. But she was there for the entirety, like just saw people around her.
Getting shot.
Yeah, falling.
How long did this last?
I think it was hours. By the time they actually got up, like several hours. And yeah, his furthest kill was 500 meters, which is incredible. That's literally the distance that Marines qualify from, which is ironic, and that's why he was used as a reference in that movie. And another guy, he shot this guy getting in his truck in the stomach, and this guy didn't die for like 20 years.
So he survived.
But died of the complications. Like he had to have a bunch of, I think, abdominal surgeries and just, but they still consider him a victim.
Oh, yeah.
They still link his
death.
Yeah. But I found that interesting. So he killed 15.
Including his family?
No.
Okay.
Not including his family.
Jeez.
But this is, the people at the top of the observatory and then, the 12 or 13 people that he picked off. And at one point, the dad that was kind of trapped up there tried to get to him, but couldn't. And Charles almost killed him then, but the dad got away, I guess, and got back to wherever he was hiding. And then, the cops, this guy, he killed several cops too, because the cops were trying to do brave shit and protect the people. And one thing they did do was kind of distract them so they were able to pull people, from the area to see if they were dead. And one woman survived. She was pregnant, but he killed the baby.
Oh, God. That's awful.
Yeah.
Is that counted in the death toll?
Yep. It's terrifying. But she lived. So, this guy was, he was
He's horrific.
Yeah, he was a tyrant.
But was he?
I know. So that's the interesting part. So, these sheriff's officers and then just a guy that was like a former military guy that worked for the campus. I think he was an instructor.
Like a professor?
Yeah, but he had prior military experience, and they just made him a sheriff on the spot, or made him a deputy.
Oh, they deputized him.
Yeah,
nice.
He's like, I know this campus like the back of my hand, and they're like, you're a deputy, come with us.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm on it. So they went up to the top of this clock tower, and the guy, I forgot the guy's full name, something Ramirez, is the cop that just gunned him down and just pow, 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 just shot after shot until, he wasn't
alive
moving
anymore.
Yeah. And then he yelled,
he did.
Ceasefire. See, that's a military thing.
Yeah.
Ceasefire. And they knew they had him. But, at that point, a lot of damage had been done. So they finally did the autopsy. And this has been debated. And I've talked about this before, but I find it so compelling. Because he had the strange headaches, he had the strange impulses, and they found a tumor fairly large, like the size of a golf ball, in the area of his amygdala.
Okay.
And
Now, for our listeners,
yeah,
tell me about the amygdala.
the correlation is the amygdala is a major emotional control center
Okay.
of the brain. And if you have a structure, a space-occupying mass, so it was benign tumor, but it was taking up real estate in his brain. And if it was putting pressure on the amygdala, it's hard to say exactly how that would affect the function of your brain, whether it would influence you in one way or the other. But at the time, they said, it's probably unrelated. Like, that was the initial autopsy.
Really?
Like, yeah, he had this tumor, but who knows? Then 20 years later, another group, kind of reinvestigated it, and they were like, yeah, we think there's a pretty strong correlation between the tumor and where it was. And then another group kind of came after them, and they're like, so now it's like inconclusive, but
well, it's probably both, right? He was primed from a young age to have these tendencies of anger and all of that because of the trauma that he had witnessed when he was a child.
Right. Yeah, I think it is both, but it's interesting. I won't dive fully into this, but how much control did he really have? If he had this thing really pushing him in one direction, this fucking tumor, that could have been causing some of these impulses for a lot of his life. Because even in the Marines, he got in trouble for shenanigans. And he was a wife beater and, just abusive husband. So the guy had a lot of trauma, but he also, how much of it was from his life experiences and how much of it was, this physical thing that he could not control is pretty interesting to think about. It'd be like, I don't know, the way in my mind it relates to other murderers, psychopaths, serial killers, which we're about to talk about.
And
more
I have
of.
actually some evidence about psychopaths and their brains.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
The interesting thing is, although these guys that you're about to mention, likely most of them don't have a tumor pressing on their amygdala, but they do have the neurochemistry and the brain of a serial killer or a psychopath or a murderer or a combination. How much of that is really, their control? How much of that, like if they're being driven in one direction so strongly, it's easy for us to say with our brains, well, I wouldn't make those fucking decisions, but we don't have the brain of a serial killer.
We don't.
Yeah.
I really do think that it has to be almost both, right? It's how you were raised. And I think as I was doing some reading, I think something that stuck out to me was that there's a doctor, his name is Dr. James Garbarino, very Italian, like me. He says he refers to individuals who offend like this as untreated, traumatized children inhabiting the bodies of often very scary men.
Oh, wow.
One thing that makes them so scary is their unconsciousness about that wounded child and the anger of that child and the fear of that child. And now in a big body, they're doing things on behalf of that child without even an awareness of it.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, yes, you can have these brain abnormalities. And there have been studies where they study offenders who are not labeled as psychopaths and offenders who are labeled as psychopaths. And the study does show that psychopaths have reduced connections between the ventromedial prefrontal cortex.
Holy shit, wow.
The part of the brain responsible for sentiments such as empathy and guilt, and the amygdala, which mediates fear and anxiety. So there are structural brain differences.
I've got another, this ties in, I think, nicely to what you're saying. It's a very large percentage. I think it's 70 or 80%. So there was a study that was conducted on a large prison population. I forgot the exact numbers, but it was a significant study, probably a few thousand inmates. And they studied their brains. And of this sample size that was incarcerated, I think it was something like 70 to 80% of these inmates exhibited signs of CTE. Like
Oh, yes.
they had head trauma.
Yes, I've heard about
They
this.
had concussions.
Yeah.
Like they're literally, they've literally had brain damage that is driving them to
Absolutely.
poor impulses and impulses that have terrible outcomes in the real world.
But
So-
you think about if you're a child that has suffered trauma, you're probably, or negligence or something, a neglectful parent, you're probably more likely to experience those events that could cause CTE.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it could be physical or just, the emotional trauma. Yeah,
Well-
it's wild.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was going to say, like, CTE, it has to be physical trauma,
Correct.
right? But, like, let's say you are in a position where your parent is beating you or something like that, that could cause CTE.
Oh,
Or if you just
sure.
have a neglectful parent, it doesn't give a shit what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're, oh, wow. I just broke my neck. And you hurt yourself.
And you
Sure.
hurt yourself.
Yeah. No, I thought that was kind of wild.
It is. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I've actually heard about that. It's crazy. And I think it does bring up a good point. I mean, it's not that can we blame them? Like, yes, they deserve to be in jail, but I think we need to be aware that there are certain things that lead these offenders to kill.
I think, so I would kind of caveat, or I may explain it differently than the word deserve. But in my eyes, when you give the free will argument, the reason it's significant for me, it actually gives me more empathy for these people, for one, because
Yeah.
I think of them as like out of control robots,
Or
essentially.
children.
Yeah, that just, they literally can't control their behavior. Another good example is, and I'm stealing some of this from Sam Harris because I've just listened to so much of what he has
You're
to
a
say on
Sam
this
Harris
subject.
fanboy.
I know, it's ridiculous. But he uses the analogy of like grizzly bears and animals. Like that is the configuration of their brain.
Yep.
In the right environment, they are going to maul and murder. And we don't blame the grizzly bear for their behavior. We do with humans. We treat them differently. I mean, obviously, we're talking about a more intelligent creature.
Well, who should have morals and that, I mean, you would think. But
Should.
Yeah.
I don't even know if should. I mean, if they have a neurotypical brain in a stable and supportive environment, then yes. But it's just not the case across the board.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's very rare, unless someone is just truly psychotic.
Yep.
That can happen where you just have bad brain chemistry from the beginning, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do to control it. But yeah, majority of these people is just unresolved trauma, or physical,
Yeah.
or emotional,
Or
mental,
both.
all the above.
Yeah.
But it's funny, the example Sam Harris uses is, so apparently this might have been like late 1800s, early 1900s, but this circus elephant got out and just trampled and murdered like a bunch of people in the town.
What town? Like, was it a small town?
Yeah, some small, I forgot where. It's not significant. I think it was in America, but to get revenge on this animal, they lynched it.
That's crazy.
From like basically a crane. They hung an elephant. They murdered it. But it's because of their fucking mistreatment and the fact
Yeah.
that they caged a wild fucking elephant.
Which
But
should
that-
have never been caged. Absolutely.
But the perspective that he's trying to bring forward is we shouldn't think about revenge with these cases. Although it would be much harder to say that if it was your people who were affected. The purpose, the whole thing I've been trying to get to is the reason we want to imprison these people is so they can't do it again.
Exactly. Well, yeah. There's
because-
no other alternative.
Yeah, because their previous behavior tells us a lot about what their future behavior will be.
Exactly.
So it's not that, we hate them. I pity them, like I feel sorry for them. that they have the brain of those people. And
It's weird.
And we're going to talk about some now. But go finish that thought.
I was going to say, I don't, even though this fascinates me and I understand that, brain imaging, that kind of stuff doesn't lie. And clearly they have some physical reasons why they would be acting this way, as well as environmental reasons that were enacted upon them when they didn't have a choice, like when they were children. I have a hard time feeling pity for them, even though as an intellectual person, I recognize, and someone who's interested in psychology, I recognize all of these things that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're just a better person than I am.
No, which I'm an empath anyway.
You are, but how do you not think about the victims? Like, that's what I
No,
can't.
I know. I mean, I identify with both. Like, it's crazy whenever I hear about these terrible stories of someone doing something terrible to another person. I don't think about the perpetrator more, but I always think about the mind of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
A lot of people just focus on the victim. And that's the person you want to comfort. But just from just pure understanding, I'm like, what the fuck drove this person to do this thing?
Yeah.
And then you can just walk it back.
And
a lot of times, yeah.
And usually there is an answer.
Yeah.
I think what sucks is when there's not, or it's just a simple, well, their brain chemistry is off.
Yeah. Let me give you one other example.
Okay.
And then I want to go through yours. I know we don't have infinite time, but there's another one that Sam Harris uses that I just love. It's Uday Hussein, one of the sons of Saddam Hussein.
Okay.
I like the way he phrases it. He's like, at what point in this kid's life do you hold him responsible for his own actions? Is it when he's 4? The 4-year-old, running around in whatever cloth fucking diaper he's wearing? Or when he's 11 and he's torturing animals? Or when he's in his 20s and he, ascends upon a wedding and stops it and murders the groom and then rapes the bride? Mm-hmm. Like, it's pretty awful, but you got to think about who this guy's father is.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just pretty awful. It's
absolutely
fucking
horrific.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it's horrific.
This guy, we killed him, and he deserved to get. He
deserved.
That's funny. I guess it's just kind of natural to think that.
It is.
It was necessary for him to die, so he did not inflict, the same harm on any other people.
I don't think it was. I think it was necessary for him to be put away. Was it really necessary for him to die?
Probably not. You could probably argue maybe you could put him in a. It's just, you also have to think this isn't in our backyard. This is overseas. It's not. We can't just throw this guy in a jail. It was either we can't extradite him from. I mean, it was like our options were a little more. Our hands were a little more tied in this environment than they would have otherwise been.
Don't you think a little bit of it is that we wanted him to die?
Probably, but it's the same thing with just, with our military, like bad guys overseas, they don't go to a court of law.
True.
It's like they either die or they continue to do the terrible shit that they're doing. Like there's just, it's your options are more limited. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like if given the option, you should always opt for just get these people out of society. Do your best, although you may not change them because the damage is probably done, especially in these guys' cases. Try very hard to at least help them develop perspective, even if they're still awful people.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's worth it. I think that's the humane thing to do. To try to say, like, hey, do you know that you are the conglomeration? Is that a good word?
Yeah.
The conglomeration of all these terrible things that have happened in your life, and now you're acting them out. And some of them may not comprehend it. Some of them might. Some of them are highly intellectual and would understand it. But yeah, Uday is a fine example of
You know my answer?
What's that?
I think he should be held responsible when he starts harming innocent animals, people.
Sure. No,
That's my answer. I think, and regardless of how he was brought up. I mean, I recognize that he was brought up in a terrible situation with terrible parents, but
no.
don't you think? What do you think?
No, I just think we have to get him off the streets.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
The hypothetical.
I agree.
Get him off. I mean, yeah, people like that. And the weird thing is, you also have to consider that sometimes maybe a higher sentencing for lower crimes disincentivizes people from attempting to do more horrible shit. Does that make sense?
It does, but do you really think that, like, it would have to be in the same vein of the crimes that, like, I don't know, I think about gateway drugs, like gateway crimes, like killing animals.
Right.
That's a serial killer path right there.
Sure. I could tell you some terrible stuff. Not from me, but...
I don't want to hear it.
All right, we'll talk about it
like
later.
arson. No. You keep that away from me.
Okay.
Like arson. That's generally a serial killer thing. But, like, I don't think that stuff that doesn't, I guess, correlate or... Does that make sense?
Well, I'm making the point that I'm trying to say, hey... Because it's hard for me, from my view, to argue for any type of capital punishment.
Okay.
I can't justify it.
Okay.
With the view that I hold, although I can hold the people responsible for their actions, I can't hold them responsible for their brains. Mm-hmm. Like for the mind that they're given, for the hand that they're dealt. My point is to get them off the street so they can stop actively harming people. And try, although... however in vain it may be, to rehabilitate them to some degree. May not work at all.
Well, especially if there's brain trauma involved.
Right. And some of that, maybe, medicine will, come along enough to where, we can possibly reverse some of these things.
Well, especially psychopathy, now that we've identified the issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I was saying, although... I feel like, hey, we just got to get these people off the street. You could justify we need to have capital punishment as a deterrent for people not to do some of these heinous crimes. Although I don't really think that if you're going to that level, that
it doesn't deter them.
It's really going to deter you.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't yet.
I guess I mean more with like the time of sentencing, probably more than just holding capital punishment over a society.
Well, because it's being held over us now.
Right.
Yet.
In certain states. Yeah.
Yet serial killers are still operating.
I know.
Like.
Yeah, and that's something.
People are still getting murdered.
Yeah, that's it disincentivizes us, but we wouldn't do the shit anyway. Yeah. I don't know. It's. I have one last thought, and I've just taken your spotlight.
No, you're good. This is my debut.
This is
it's
cool.
Fine.
Well, you're doing fantastic.
Thank you.
This is the most professional shit we've ever produced.
Well, I take murder very seriously.
I know you do. Man, you really did your research. What if we had a cure in a pill form for psychopathy? Would it be moral for us to withhold it from people that have already committed some of these crimes? So, for instance, Uday Hussein, we hadn't killed him yet. He's, disrupted countless weddings and committed his crimes, murders. What if we could give him this pill and he's just no longer a psychopath?
And that would mean he'd be released?
Well, it just mean... Well, no, let's say we can still keep him in jail, but we can either give him the cure for psychopathy and then he just understands why he did what he did and he no longer has impulses to kill, or we withhold it.
I think it'd be much more difficult. So if you had done something heinous and didn't realize that it was heinous, didn't feel that empathy,
right,
and then you were given the pill, I think it would almost be more of a punishment to all of a sudden feel what you did.
Right.
So I almost think it's less moral to give them the pill Well, not even less moral. It's more painful.
Oh wow. Well, I would still. That I like. I like
You
your.
see what I'm saying?
I like your characterization, but I feel it would be immoral if I knew that I could give this to someone, and they took it and they just like broke down, and were like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe the terrible thing." I think we'd be obligated to give that to them.
Oh, yeah, I
like that
agree.
release. Yeah, just
But
like
I don't think it is a release. It's like blissful ignorance. It's not a release. It's worse for them to understand and to feel what they've done.
I did. Yeah, I think I disagree.
But so you would want to know because you have empathy. But think about, like, let's say you had this terrible family secret and you had no idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say,
It's a lot of them.
yeah, let's say like your sister was your mom, right?
Okay.
Like that happens, right?
Gotcha.
Where like people who have kids really young, the grandmother technically ends up saying, well, I'm the mom. And the sister is just your sister, even though the sister's your mom.
Yeah, it's
you went
crazy.
through your entire life not knowing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you were told that. Like, that wouldn't be a release.
Well, I'd want to know.
But
I
would
feel,
you?
Yeah. Well, in these guys' cases, I mean, yeah. I think I got to get you to read this book called Lying.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm a pro. I'm pro lying, and you're like anti lying.
I don't want to base, even if it's, if I feel good in the moment, I don't want to live, based off a lie for any amount of time.
But you have to admit that knowledge would bring pain.
Well, yeah, it would. And we would, learn from it and grow from it. And sure. I mean, for these guys, though, that are going to, I feel like that's the best gift I could give them is to be like, it would introduce them to empathy. So if it's the cure for psychopathy, then they're going to understand why they did the things they did. They will no longer have those impulses. I'm not articulating it well because I
No.
see your facial expression.
No, I just disagree.
All right. Fair enough.
But this is what I think you view
So
empathy.
you would withhold it from
No.
Uday Hussein.
No, I would give it to him because I
Oh,
want him
okay.
to suffer.
Oh, you want him to suffer. Interesting.
So this is what I'm saying. I think you're viewing it as a good thing that all of a sudden they have empathy.
Yeah.
I view it as, yeah, it's a good thing for us, but it's a bad thing for them. All of a sudden having these emotions and understanding the weight of what you've done. Wouldn't you rather, if you were the serial killer or the psychopath or whatever, live, but you have to think about it from their perspective.
I get it.
If I was killed, I don't know, 100 people, I'd rather not feel anything about it than to feel the pain of what I have done.
I'm giving them a gift. I view it as a gift. You view it as punishment, but I don't want to punish them.
I know, because you're a good person.
No, because they can't help that that's their brain.
I know. Yeah.
I don't. Again, it's much harder in the context of what if it was your family. Obviously it'd hit a lot closer to home, and I'd be incredibly sad. But my goal would be I don't want this to happen to anyone else's family.
Yeah, no, true. But I mean, they're locked up regardless, so it's kind of
Yeah.
a moot point.
Sure. Yeah. But it's
But it's a good thought experiment,
I know. It's interesting.
nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think I'm maybe pro capital punishment.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about some of your killers.
Yeah. So I'm actually just going to cover one.
Okay.
But there are plenty of family annihilators if anyone wants to check them out.
Okay.
So the one I actually want to talk about was actually featured on Unsolved Mysteries. I don't know if you're a fan of that.
I used to
TV
watch
show.
the shit out of that when I was
Yeah.
young. It scared the hell out of me, like the
Oh,
intro music.
It's alarming.
It was terrifying.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, Netflix did a revamp of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually
Who's
quite...
hosting it now? Steve Harvey?
No.
Okay.
I don't think that there actually is a host, but they do like this cool, like, I don't know if that's the right word, vignette of like the old host.
I like vignettes.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
the right word that I'm thinking of?
Well, what do they do?
It's like
they
a
tell a
little
story about him, or
No, that is not. I completely made up that word.
a silhouette.
A silhouette, not a vignette. God.
You're good.
See, I'm so glad to have you around to like
We-
clarify my speech.
Whatever. We learn things here.
So yeah, so if y'all have watched this, then you'll understand the story I'm talking about. So this guy, his name, and he's French. I'm just gonna kind of stumble through it. Xavier Dupont de Lyon.
Oh, that's pretty close. It's good.
Who knows if I'm saying it correctly?
No, it sounded great.
Lyon. So
Leon.
Lyon.
Okay.
So he's this is weird to say, he's my favorite type of family annihilator.
Nice.
The anomic, because he killed his family because he felt like he was a loser and he lost all of his fucking money.
Okay.
So so I'll kind of set the scene. So in April of 2011, not in August, the Dupont de Lyon family of Nantes, France, they just disappeared. And they're actually family of aristocratic blood, just FYI. So the family comprises of Xavier and his wife Agnes and their 4 children, Arthur, Thomas, Anne, and Benoit. Arthur actually wasn't Xavier's biological child, but he had adopted him, so he was essentially his child.
Gotcha.
Their bank accounts were closed. The house was completely emptied of the belongings. And on the mailbox, there was a note that said return to sender. Okay. So the only word that anyone had ever heard from the family after this happened, I believe that it was sent to, I think, the in-laws, but it was sent from Xavier saying that he was a U.S. secret agent who had entered the witness protection program. And then he had also told that the children's private schools that they were moving to Australia. So he was saying a shit ton of different things to different people. Okay.
Setting it up.
Yep. So a week after the disappearance, a neighbor called the police, and the police entered their home, and everyone was dead except for Xavier.
They found them dead?
They found them dead.
Okay.
And they actually found them dead along with their 2 dogs beneath the terrace of their house. They were wrapped in bags and buried alongside a bunch of religious icons.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, so immediately he shoots up to the number 1 suspect. So whenever they did the autopsy, they found that the children were giving sleeping pills and then shot.
Jesus.
And it was actually a rifle that he had inherited from his father a few months earlier.
Okay. Wow.
And it's just sad because the children had very promising futures. It was a really cute family. You just would have never known. I know. I'm sorry. This is really heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It gets me.
I know. I know. You have so much empathy. But this is actually, we're doing a service because this guy is still in the wind. So
Oh, my God.
yeah, I'll get to that.
Holy shit.
So-
How long ago was this?
This was 2011.
Wow. That was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So obviously he's looking like the prime suspect. They found out that he was practicing shooting at a local rifle club.
Sure.
He purchased a silencer, and I think a few days or weeks before, he also purchased garbage bags and cement.
Nice.
So to me, there should be that he should have been flagged.
Yeah.
We should have a way to flag people.
At some point,
Yeah.
when you start buying suspicious
absolutely.
items, yeah.
So after this all came out and they found the bodies, they found out that he was struggling with very significant debt. He was the descendant of a French count, and he had all this inheritance that he completely blew. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so he
But he blamed them?
he didn't blame them. He's an anomic family annihilator. So he feels that his family is an extension of his economic status. So if he doesn't have economic status, then he no longer needs his family.
So he killed them out of shame?
Yeah.
Okay.
For being broke or in debt or whatever.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, to me, it's not a compelling reason to murder your family.
Well, you're also not a family annihilator. So he's had a week, right? So he left all these messages, he's kind of pretended they're in America now. He's had a week to get away from the police. So
Gotcha.
the week, yeah.
Head start.
Yeah, a week head start. And so on April 12th, which is a day after no, not a day after. Yeah, maybe a day after the murder. He was spotted at a hotel in the south of France. And on April 15th, the last image that they have of him was in a coastal town of France. And CCTV footage captured him leaving a budget hotel, taking 30 pounds out of a cash machine. He was seen leaving his car outside the hotel, and he's like holding a large bag, which is thought to contain his rifle.
Oh,
And literally no one's seen him since.
wow.
In 2019, they actually detained a man, I think in the Glasgow airport, because they thought it was him. And they like ran all these sorts of like DNA tests. They found out it wasn't him.
Holy
but they
shit.
thought they had him.
So this guy, wow. I guess that's why he's on the show Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, and like they literally have done, I think, tons of sweeps. Like you'd think that. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
See, I'm just so new at this.
No,
I got
you're
really
good.
excited.
You're good.
You'd think that, and this is a highly publicized case in France, and also now in the USA because of Unsolved Mysteries. But
Yeah.
you'd think that we would be able to find something by now, right?
Yeah. Wow.
I personally think that he pulled a John List, which is a famous family annihilator that essentially lived in the wind for like, I think 40 years until America's Most Wanted premiered. And he
Wow.
actually was caught by that. I think that is something. I think that he just completely changed his look.
Oh, just everything.
He created a new life. But yeah, that's the story of Xavier Dupont de Leon.
Yeah, that like, I don't
Xavier.
know. I feel that, man. That's,
I know. I'm sorry.
these are fucking heavy.
I know. This is a heavy episode.
I don't think, no. I mean, I thought it was fun. I don't think I could like ingest these at the same rate that you do.
It's weird. I feel different talking about it
Okay.
than I do listening to it.
Oh, yeah.
So like when you were talking about Charles Whitman, also because I went to UT, I felt heavy
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I can like, a good commercial can make me tear up.
Yeah.
You know, just like, I can't.
But also I think there's something to be said that women are the highest consumers of true crime. I think it's because we're tougher, to be quite honest.
Okay. Yeah, there's that. Also, you're probably more likely to face these things. I'm more likely to be the perpetrator.
I mean, absolutely. You're in your 30s. It's August.
Statistically.
Statistically, you're it.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. Well, some of these guys, I don't know. I mentioned Chris Benoit the other day, but he was like fueled by steroids and he had other sources of rage, but he killed his whole family.
Oh, yeah. You know, and like,
Which category would he fit? I feel like that's like a
what, like, I don't know anything about him.
steroid abuse. I don't know.
So it was a double murder and a suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, he killed himself too.
To be quite honest, I don't know enough about this, but I have trouble distinguishing like when there's clearly like a mental
Right.
reason. Like I don't know.
Like it was clearly
And alcohol abuse
and steroids, bad combination.
and a failing marriage.
You know what's
Really?
interesting is about the Charles Whitman case, how much hatred he had for his father, but yet his father was not on the list of victims.
I know. I thought about that.
I wonder if some of it was I don't know, I wonder if he wanted his father to feel a certain way.
That's what I was kind of thinking because you said that he killed his family and his mother because he didn't want them to feel shame.
Right. And I guess he wanted his...
I think he may have wanted his dad. Yeah.
The thing is, I think his dad was just sociopathic enough that it didn't really get to him. Like, based off that fucking interview I saw where he's like, my boy knew how to shoot a hunting rifle, I'll tell you that much. I was like, dude, you don't get it, man. I mean, maybe he had some powerful emotions later and just didn't on the camera. Maybe he broke down, but his whole family, his whole essence was then gone. And it just, yeah, he was focusing on all the wrong things in that interview. You need to watch that one. You would like it.
I think after this, I just need to stick to comedies.
Probably.
We need to end this on like a happy note. So we should talk about something like, I don't know, what are you excited for? this weekend?
Oh, a lot of things. I'm probably going to do a little bike ride and go
Cool.
to the farmer's market.
Nice.
I'll tell you one thing I'm fucking stoked for in
Okay.
a few weeks is this Dave Chappelle, Joe
Fuck
Rogan
yeah.
stand-up with the boys in Nolans.
You gonna get into some trouble there?
I hope not. Did I tell you about the last time we went? It was literally straight out of The Hangover.
Oh shit.
I mean, we literally lost our friend, Matthew.
Did he turn up on a rooftop, sunburnt, late for his wedding?
We looked for him. We tried to get on the roof of the hotel,
Got
but we
it.
couldn't gain access.
Okay.
Like, that's how in tune we were with The Hangover. But I won't give you all the details. But yeah, he got away from us at one point during the night. He just disappeared into the hordes of people
Nolan's people.
on Bourbon.
Oh yeah. It smells so good on Bourbon Street.
Oh, God. Oh, wait. Are you serious? Okay. I didn't know if you were talking about the restaurants or
Oh,
something.
no. It smells like vomit and
Yeah, and
piss.
feet. Yeah.
And feet, yeah.
All of the above. But yeah, he ended up in a place where he shouldn't have been.
Okay.
And he was a little too giddy and happy for this environment. And that's the last thing he remembers walking into a hallway of people who were not thrilled to see him. And we continued our night. We literally went up and down Bourbon. We went in every venue. We even asked the cops, "Have you seen our friend? Have you arrested him?" At one point, Trey thought it was a cool idea to stop and play a street chess player.
Okay, yeah. I think that's probably contributed to finding your friend.
Yeah, it was very helpful. Fortunately, he got demolished within 60 seconds.
I can imagine that.
Because this
after a night
guy,
on Bourbon.
Trey was like, "Well, I used to be really good in the 5th grade." And this guy does this, pretty much for a living.
Yeah.
Hustles people. He's an excellent chess player.
Yeah.
So Trey got demolished. We went in a few bars, had a couple more drinks, looking for Matt. And then ended up, we might have gone to the hotel first to look and see if he was there. He wasn't there. Then we went to IHOP
Okay.
to refuel
Yep.
at like 5 in the morning. And got a good breakfast. I got some pictures of Trey, like literally passed out at the table. And then we went to the hotel by about 6. And then went to bed. And our plan, and we tried to get on the roof. We were unsuccessful. And we were all fairly intoxicated, not as much as
Oh,
Matt.
really? That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah, it was.
Couldn't have guessed.
It was fun. But the next, my plan was literally the next morning start checking hospitals. Like we were literally going off the playbook of I don't know. It's a pretty good comedy.
Yeah.
The Hangover's good. It's a classic. But we didn't have to do that because around 8 in the morning we heard a knock on the door, and it was our friend, and he was disheveled.
Where had he been? Can you tell me?
Yeah.
Oh.
He had no shoes. He had no socks. He'd been walking around Bourbon Street barefoot.
No.
Yeah.
Were his feet cut up?
No, but they were disgusting.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Imagine what's on that street.
Oh, God.
He had no phone. He had no wallet. I don't know if he had a watch before, but he definitely didn't.
He just was wondering and y'all missed him?
Well, no, he was unconscious.
No.
I mean, he got mugged. Yeah.
What?
So he crawled into bed with one of us. Do you know how he found our room? Because he didn't remember the number.
No.
I don't even know how
Did he
found
just
it.
keep knocking?
He literally, this is what he told me. He went to the doors of the he kind of guesstimated the floor.
Yep.
So I guess he did this probably for a couple floors. He literally listened for the snore, the very distinguished snore of my cousin. And once he heard that snore, he was like, bingo.
Oh, my God.
And he found us. And, yeah, and I think I remember him, we were standing and waiting on our valet to come down the next morning.
Fancy.
and he was standing there barefoot.
Oh my God.
I
Jeez.
think Trey had like a spare pair of boots that he gave him the next day. So he had like, just regular clothes and then cowboy boots. It was funny, but I think Corey took a picture of him just standing there, kind of looking sad with no shoes. Yeah.
That's quite an eventful
No wallet.
night.
Yeah. So fortunately, he didn't have that much money, but yeah, he had to call and cancel cards and get a new license and, get a new phone. So wasn't great, but I just remember the next day we went to Subway and he opened his mouth, or that morning, he opened his mouth to take a bite of the sandwich and he goes, "Oh," and I laughed so hard.
Why?
I laughed because, they punched him in the jaw. Yeah,
Poor thing.
I know.
So I think this is a PSA.
Yeah, it is.
For people going to New Orleans.
I know.
To write where your fucking hotel is on your arm.
Yeah.
It's keep with the buddy system.
Yeah, don't wander into the crowd.
Do not wander into the crowd.
But
well, I hope that you'll have a less
it's not gonna
eventful experience in a few weeks.
We're gonna focus on the comedy.
I think that's smart.
And the food. We'll have some good food, some seafood somewhere. We'll probably have an alcoholic beverage or so, but
do it.
It'll be fun. But yeah, that's a few weeks from now. But I don't know. What are you looking forward to? And we'll wrap this thing up. I know you got to roll.
Yeah. What am I looking forward to? So, on September 7th, I just saw there is a new FX series. I think it's written by like Brad Falchuk and Ryan Murphy.
Okay.
On the Clinton impeachment proceedings.
Wow.
Yes. And Sarah Paulson is in it. And
I've heard of her.
it's like Jonah Hill's sister
Oh, wow.
is in it. And she plays Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, man.
And I'm pretty sure Sarah Paulson plays Linda, remember the blonde-haired chick that was like all up in it, but was like Monica Lewinsky's friend, but then I think turned her in.
Ooh, I don't know. I'll probably learn a lot from.
Yes,
but it's a series.
It's a series, but it's the same group that did. I think it's like the O.J. Simpson trial series.
Okay.
Remember that
I was
on
gonna
FX?
say, is this like fucking Trump's team that put this together, or is this
No.
too professional?
No, it's too professional. And I think Brad Falchuk is married to Gwyneth Paltrow. So, and I love Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, you do. You like her products.
I do.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, so yeah, that is something I am for sure looking forward to, and I'm
Wow.
excited. Oh, it's called Impeachment: American Crime Story. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah, the Democrats have drama too, so we can. I don't know. That's probably. I'm sure it's fascinating.
But who's going to play good old Bill Clinton? That's my question.
There's so many. I don't know. I'm sure they will do an excellent job. That guy's pretty easy. I'm not a good impersonator, but I feel like he's pretty easy to impersonate. Pretty unique.
Next episode, I'm expecting a Bill Clinton impersonation by you.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess
So you
I'll
got
work
to practice up. Cool.
Oh my God. All right, Maggie. This is what I'll do. We always end the episode by saying OA for life.
OA for life.
OA for life, dudes. Yeah, that's going to be it. We'll stop
Cool.
it. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
We'll do it again.